A rainy night in an empty Times Square. No tourists, nothing to look at. These are hunkering down times in New York and elsewhere. Well, good evening on this day, 1184 of the Trump administration, which means effective tonight, there are now 200 days remaining until the presidential election. As for our current president, after starting the day calling for the liberation of 3 states that are observing his government guidelines, he moved on to tonight's briefing in the West Wing. In no particular order, he repeated all he has done for New York. He repeated what he has learned about the death toll in the Civil War, which he now regularly mentions. He talked again about restaurant seating, how we had the greatest economy just weeks ago. He criticized Obama. He repeated, as he does every day, the death toll projections if he had done nothing. He warned Virginians that their governor wants to take their guns away and bragged about the crowd size at his rallies. All of that at today's pandemic briefing, where he also said, quote, the federal government has a lot to say beyond what anybody understands. About the illness tearing across our countryside, he said, nobody can be blamed. There is no blame, he said. And then throwing shade on what is likely some combination of China and the WHO as he sees it, he said, quote, it could easily have been solved, probably very easily. He closed by saying, I've seen some very good things. So with that, let's check in on the real world, where we find the nation's death toll tonight has now passed 36,000. There are more than 698,000 confirmed cases across the U.S. Now just over 1% of our population has been tested. Now all 50 states and territories are under disaster declarations for the first time in our nation's history. In the 24 hours since the president announced his 3-phase plan to reopen the country, the question from governors across the nation has been, what is the federal government going to do to help us with widespread testing? The first phase of Trump's guidelines to reopen states depends on the ability to test for the virus and what's called contact tracing. As we mentioned, at the moment, about 1% of the U.S. population has been tested. Tonight, Trump doubled down on what he told governors yesterday. In effect, testing is in your hands.
We have tremendous unused capability within those laboratories, and I hope the governors are going to be able to use them. The governors are responsible for testing, and I hope they're going to be able to use this tremendous amount of available capacity that we have. It's up to 1 million additional tests per week. When you think of that, in the next few weeks, we'll be sending out 5.5 million testing swabs to the state. Swabs can be done easily by the governors themselves. Mostly it's cotton.
If you're following the news, however, you know there's also a shortage of swabs. Trump's task force also weighed in and seemed to imply that there are enough tests, that the system in place works, and that testing is not the most important factor in reopening the country.
Testing is a part, an important part, of a multifaceted way that we are going to control and ultimately end this outbreak. The emphasis that we've been hearing is essentially testing is everything, and it isn't. It's the kinds of things that we've been doing, the mitigation strategies.
We have and will continue to have enough tests to safely go into phase 1. It is beyond the possibility to test everyone in this country every day. It's not possible.
Can't remind everybody often enough what we heard today at the White House, very different from what Trump told our country back in early March.
Anybody right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the test.
Wasn't true then, still not true tonight. Trump now also appears to be backing an effort to get governors to lift restrictions like social distancing and orders to stay at home, guidelines his administration suggested to all of us to try to contain this virus. Protests have erupted in Michigan, Minnesota, Virginia. Most are self-identified Trump supporters. Trump posted these messages today. We mentioned them at the top of the broadcast, encouraging demonstrators to, quote, liberate those states, all of which coincidentally key to his 2020 reelection campaign with Democratic governors. Today, Trump was asked about those sentiments during the briefing.
When you talk about these states, Michigan, Minnesota, Virginia, do you think that they should lift their stay-at-home orders, or can you talk
No, but I think elements of what they've done are too much. These are people expressing their views. I see where they are, and I see the way they're working. They seem to be very responsible people to me, but it's, they've been treated a little bit rough.
He said this week his people will listen to him. Meanwhile, Texas, which has more than 17,000 cases now, already preparing to lift some of their restrictions, just because it is. Today, the Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, announced stores will be able to offer retail to go, just like restaurants, beginning next Friday, April 22nd, and that more businesses will be allowed to open up later in the month. Also today, the president opened up a new fight with the governor at the very epicenter of the crisis in this country. That would be Andrew Cuomo of New York. He's been grappling with the majority of our cases, well over 200,000, almost a third of the entire nation's cases. This morning, Trump attacked Cuomo just as he was giving his daily update on the impact of the virus, and we quote, Governor Cuomo should spend more time doing and less time complaining. Get out there and get the job done. Stop talking. We built you thousands of hospital beds that you didn't need or use, gave large numbers of ventilators that you should have had, and helped you with testing that you should be doing. We have given New York far more money, help, and equipment than any other state by far, and these great men and women who did the job never hear you say thanks. Your numbers are not good. Less talk and more action. Cuomo then responded to Trump in real time.
If he's sitting home watching TV, maybe he should get up and go to work. The expression, don't pass the buck without passing the bucks. He's saying he doesn't want to provide funding to the states, and he doesn't want to help on testing. And I can tell you the states can't do it otherwise. And if this testing doesn't work, that's a serious problem. I have said a number of times, I don't know, what am I supposed to do, send a bouquet of flowers? The only thing he's doing, let's be honest, well, it's up to the states to reopen. By the way, it was always up to the states. What are you going to grant me what the Constitution gave me before you were born? It's called the 10th Amendment. I don't need the President of the United States to read the Constitution for me. Maybe he should have read the Constitution before he said he had the power to open the states. How many times do you want me to say thank you? But I'm saying thank you for doing your job.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.